40 contenders. 7 rounds. The road to the Coke Series ends here.
Good evening, race fans, and welcome to the 6th round of the 2023 eNASCAR Contender iRacing Series live this evening from the virtual Dover Motor Speedway in Dover, Delaware. James Pike alongside Blake McCandless, ready to bring you all the action. And Blake, this is a tough track. This is a very, very fast race track, especially considering how big it is, or maybe not so big, mile in distance. But the biggest key tonight, at the end of this evening, we will, in all likelihood, lock in a few drivers into eligibility for the 2024 eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series.
That's what it's all about, James. I know we don't have playoffs in this series, but this is when it gets down to the nitty-gritty. All of these drivers find themselves in totally different situations right now. You have some drivers like Salas, and many of those were like Ryan Luza, who have been so good, and they're pretty much here for participation at this point. It's almost a certainty that they're going to get in the top 20 of this Contender Series. But you have so many drivers who have set themselves up with so much pressure riding on these next 2 weeks, James, because they want to go to the right side of that graphic. They want to go to the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series. The flip side of that is all the work you did this year, all the practice, all the races, all of that is for naught if you're unable to get inside the top 20 or what we may anticipate being the top 22. You got to go back to the qualifying iRacing Series in the trucks, and you'd have just 2 races to do it, Dover, and then 2 weeks to plan for Texas after the Thanksgiving break.
Not a lot of time to get stuff done if you are in a position where you need to gain points just tonight, and then the finale at Texas in 2 weeks' time remain on the calendar for the Contender Series this year. These are the point standings. We talk about eligibility for the Coke Series. You look at that left side, the magic number tonight, ballpark of 41 points. If you're north of 41, you will almost certainly finish in the top 20 in points and be eligible for Coke Series contention next year, exiting this evening. So you look at a few of the names there, Salas and Luza in particular. Right there, everybody else going to have to work, and then this mess in particular from 21st all the way to 30th, where everybody's still fighting and will have to the final lap in Texas.
Just mere points apart from one another, and just look at how close they are. I mean, Matthew Zwack in 21st, who is behind the cut line. Now, we anticipate that cut line may move around. We've talked about Michael Conti and Alan Bowes, and perhaps another driver I've been hearing that may not be coming back to the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series in 2023. But no doubt about it, you don't want to be on this page at all. You don't want to leave that up to chance, but it is close. It is competitive. Just 9 points separate Zwack all the way down to Michael Frisch in 29th. And I would say, James, if you're behind Agnell Phillip, we appreciate you coming out and having the season you've had to make it this far. But it's going to be, you pretty much got to win out and have some luck if you're a Blaze Crawford on down, I think, at this point.
How wild it is to see how much can change in a year. You look at Joey Brown, who was, I believe, the champion of this series a year ago, finished higher in the points, and now 12 months later, he's dead last, and almost certainly the first driver that we can say is not going to be returning to the Coke Series in 2024. But I also think that speaks to just how competitive this series is. You can be on top of the world one moment, the next moment, everybody finds a little bit more speed than you do, and all of a sudden, boom, you're out on the outside looking in. You have to go through the qualifying series next year.
These drivers will try to figure it out, as they have to every single year, as you mentioned, the competitiveness, and they will have to do it here at the Monster Mile for 120 laps. And Dover is a fast racetrack, especially in these NASCAR Xfinity Series cars. A lot of power, little downforce. These drivers are going to be sliding around all the 24 degrees of banking. And James, this is a track where you fall down into the bankings. You were able to carry so much speed. It was Nick Ottinger who won this race to get his place into the championship for this season as we take a look back at everything that transpired with many of these drivers who participated in this race or are inside the top 20 right now, had a little bit of a litmus test here in the next-gen car earlier this year.
Yeah, they did, and you can see some of the names that were involved in incidents that you'll see tonight. Derek Bordeaux there going around, and Timmy Holmes also in the mix there too. He's going to be competing this evening. The ones at the front, though, really got it done quick and nice and are hanging out waiting to see which 20 drivers from the Contender Series will join them in the Coke Series next year. Lots of competitive racing in the Coke Series race year. This was in the playoffs not too long ago, although it seems like it feels like a lifetime ago, given how long it's been. Only maybe a month and a half since the Coke Series finale, but here we are, and ready to compete and fight in the middle of November and look towards 2024. Lots of pit entry issues here. Something that we're going to watch for tonight, in particular at Dover. This is one of the hardest pit roads to get into under green flag racing. So we may see incidents there this evening. You may see incidents off of turn 2 and turn 4 like we saw in the Coke Series. These corner exits narrow up very quickly and the outside wall sneaks up on you.
It really does, and you know, this is a racetrack where things can go south very quickly and there's nowhere to go. Think about all the issues that we kind of saw throughout the course of this race in the Coke Series, and this is what happens. You can see Femi Olot, great example, spinning down there. That is not a typical wreck that you'll see at Dover. Somebody spinning down to the inside, keeping it down there. Nobody else gets involved, especially when these wrecks happen towards the front of the field, and that's going to hold the same in these NASCAR Xfinity Series cars that these drivers are using. But you could see the move right here. Nick Ottinger able to go by what ended up being a fellow fellow championship competitors. In fact, it was the championship 4. You can see right there, finished top 4 here at Dover. So you got to be fast here if you want to move on.
Let's also not forget that the eNASCAR College iRacing Series takes place over the course of the fall. One more race for them in the fall semester at Watkins Glen International in 2 weeks' time, our road course on the college calendar. And if you want to learn more about that, you can see in the QR code on the lower right-hand portion of your screen. 8 p.m. start time for that, November 28th here on eNASCAR.com/live. So if you want more opportunities to see the best of the best, earn some scholarship money for their studies at their institutions, that date, that time, Watkins Glen, the place to be.
It certainly is, and heck, I remember running that. I wonder how long this race is. You know, if it's 35 laps, maybe we see somebody try to save some fuel and maybe go all the way. Harkens back to a couple of years ago. But yeah, the College Series has been awfully competitive, and we should see the same tonight at Dover Motor Speedway for sure in this Contender Series.
And there's a lot of crossover, too, between the College Series and the Contender Series. If not for the Contender Series, we would see a few of the drivers in here. I think of Daniel Falkingham in particular, who's found success. Stephen Wilson in the past has found success. Some drivers that are really, really strong in this Contender Series also end up competing in the College Series, too. So we'll try and point out some of those names over the course of this evening, but we have a contender race to get to. We have 2 more races left on the calendar. We start tonight at Dover Motor Speedway, and we are almost set and ready to take a look at the starting grid and tell you where your favorite driver is going to begin tonight's proceedings. 120 laps here on the docket at Dover Motor Speedway, just under 180 kilometers as we get set to go racing. Cody Bias, your pole sitter for Dead Zone with a fast time of 22.479 seconds. Alongside him, Wyatt Tinsley of North Force Racing just announced a massive partnership with Elite Performance Industries earlier today. Seth DeMerchant and Ryan Luza rolling off from 3rd and 4th. Colin Bowden and Taylor Hirsch complete the first 3 rows.
Plenty of names that already are in the top 20. That continues with Brian LaPrade, Femi Olot as well. He is 10th in the standings right now as it sits. We continue to look forward here, James. Falkingham, Frisch, Alt, Timmy Holmes. A couple of those drivers need a good run tonight to have a shot.
Daniel Smallwood, Derek Justice begin from 13th and 14th. Vicente Salas is your points leader. He'll start 15th alongside Daniel Botafuco, who's trying to claw his way back into contention into the top 20. Matthew Swack and Kwame Scott complete row 9.
2 drivers that are right on the cut line are going to start above that top 20 threshold here tonight. Brian Mercurio, Caden Honeycutt make up row 10. Anthony Burrows, maybe a little bit too far out, along with Agnel Phillip. You have Zach Novak, who is in a very good position to advance, as well as Christopher Pfeffer, who make out row 12.
Brandon McKissick, and Colin Keister start in 25th and 26th. 27th on the grid is Derek Bordeaux, our winner last week at Richmond. Andrew Navarro to his outside. Ryan Doucette, Blaze Crawford start 29th and 30th.
Back to Kevin King. He's somebody that needs a good run tonight to make it in, along with Christopher Hill, who's had an incredible season so far. He's 5 points back. Ray Alfala, he's 2 points back. He's going to have to make his way forward tonight, as well as Logan Helton, Jonathan Dulaney, and Caden Rush. It will make up your top 36. Only 38 cars out here tonight. James Holzer and Max Brady for NFR did not make a lap in qualifying. They'll round out this 38-car field.
38 drivers to take to the track here at Dover Motor Speedway. 120 laps, 120 miles on the docket, technically just over 190 kilometers, 35-mile-an-hour pit road speed. Your pit window is 65 to 70 laps, but Blake, that's going to be determined more by fuel, or rather tires, I think, than fuel.
Yeah, fuel, you're going to be able to go quite a bit further than that, probably about 85-ish, depending on what type of setup you're running, how much you're lifting. This is a track where if you need to, you could save a decent amount of fuel. And the Contender Series race I ran in 2 years ago turned into a fuel mileage race with the same distance, 120 laps. We had a caution around lap 35, 36 or so. You had drivers that were running out. So if we get a caution after that, it should be pretty straightforward to the end.
Cody Bias to lead us to the green flag in round number 6 of the 2023 eNASCAR Contender iRacing Series. Green flag flies. We are underway, and the field of 38 cars tries to get through the gears, and immediately they duck out 3 and 4 wide. We'll have to watch and see who slides and spin tires and who maybe misses shifts on restarts. But for now, door to door, and look at Wyatt Tinsley get the run on the outside and take the lead from Cody Bias.
I tell you, one car that jumped up to the top side early was Derek Justice. There was a little bit of a stack up there on the inside with Dylan Alt, and Justice took full advantage. He was able to net a couple of spots. So through lap 1, he started in 14th. He's up to 12th. But it's very rare that we see drivers willing to go that high. But he went where the run was going, worked out for Derek Justice. And, you know, this is one of the things that makes Dover so difficult, James, is you have this middle lane that is awfully competitive. As you can see, Zwack needs a good run. He's in the middle 3 wide, further back of the pack.
Oh, they just about got into each other. Zach Novak and Anthony Burrows almost got into each other on quarter exit, and Kenny Honeycutt's right behind them. That was incredibly close. As you get a good shot from our chopper cam, you see who's competing where, who's trying to make moves. They're still 3 wide a little bit further back, and now they finally settle into double file.
You can see Derek Bordeaux, last week's winner, just behind Caden Honeycutt. These wins are somewhat overshadowed later in the year, but they pay out the same, 40 points, and Bordeaux certainly in a good position to try and move on to his aspirations to return to the Coke Series in 2023. But again, we talk about Dover is a really difficult track to pass, and it's because you can see a lot of cars who are able to make that top side work. Burrows looks awfully loose right now, but yet is still able to maintain. But back up front, you can see Wyatt Tinsley. And talking with a lot of these NFR drivers a little bit yesterday, they were very confident and felt like they could hit their qualifying setup very consistently. We saw this team perform very well at Darlington a couple weeks ago, and they grabbed what wasn't a pole. It was Cody Bias that took the pole position here, but Wyatt Tinsley got a little bit of a better jump, and he'll lead us through the opening couple of laps.
Tinsley, indeed, very young driver out of Hampton, Virginia, not terribly far away from Norfolk and Virginia Beach, so plenty of experience on tracks sort of near this area. Richmond, Dover, all places he's been to. Larry King Law's Langley Speedway, his home track in the NASCAR Advanced Auto Parts Weekly Series, a spot where Tinsley frequents as we continue to see the back of the field try to get single file and fail, I suppose, in those efforts, which is good for us because it means we get to see more side-by-side racing. This is Dylan Alt and Daniel Smallwood, Brian Mercurio, Matthew Zwack, Daniel Botafuco, and Timmy Holmes also in the mix too.
And Dylan Alt has not had the start that I'm sure he would have wanted, and almost a little contact off of turn 4 with Daniel Smallwood. There's been a couple of instances already in this race. It's very young, and yet Dylan Alt has nearly made contact several times off the corner. And you can see you have to use every bit of this racetrack to try and make time, and be able to exit. You're coming up right on that outside wall. Even when you're single file here at Dover, it doesn't get any easier when you're side by side. You have some of these drivers that are the best in the world that know how to take advantage of every inch that they can get. And we see it coming to fruition here. You can see on board, right in behind here, is Dylan Alt.
Really, really fun stuff. This is on board Daniel Falkingham out of Jonesport, Maine, one of the North Sports drivers that we've talked about at good length over the course of the 2023 Contender Series season. He currently finds himself just to the back end of the top 10, riding in the 9th spot. Femi Olan racing for Charlotte Phoenix just ahead of him.
And it looks like Falkingham's kind of moved towards a setup where he's actually looking at his monitor center. You know, he used to have a rig where he was kind of sitting in his rig. His monitor was probably, I don't know, 6 or 7 feet away from him, and he had to look to the left to be able to drive. So it was amazing that, you know, he's able to run so well in so many of the events he's run here to be able to make the Coke Series. But I think being in the Coke Series this season, he was able to get a little bit of work done on that side. He's got the fan going too, help keep you cool. That's definitely something that you want to have in your background. But Falkingham sitting in a good spot right now. P9 currently sits 23 points above the cut line as they run right now.
Big fan of
coming into this week.
Big fan of a big fan in your setup as Vicente Salas steps to the inside. He'll take over the 10th position. To his outside is Michael P. Frisch. Derek Justice right there too. Frisch came into tonight 11 points back of the cut. Justice and company also trying to fight for a spot in the top 20. Justice was 9 points out, so they need good runs to make the job a little bit easier next week at Texas.
And the thing is, with Texas coming up in a couple weeks, you have so much time. This is a rapid-fire season, James. I mean, we started just a little over a month ago, and we had no clue who was going to be running well in the series. Now that it's established, we could see the names that we kind of have around the top 20, where everybody's running, kind of where they're going to be slotted in and where they're looking towards Texas. But all of these races have been back-to-back, week after week. Texas, a little bit different. We have 2 weeks to prepare for Texas Motor Speedway with the Thanksgiving break coming up next week for it. So it is a long 2 weeks for those drivers who are just above, right on, or just beneath that cut line. This is why you want to have a good run tonight, because the last thing you want to do is have to lose a little bit of sleep and wonder what in the world is going to happen when you get to Texas at a track that we know you qualify, and it's hard to make anything happen after that.
I think Derek Bordeaux might have lost a few nerves there out of turn 2 that last time by. I saw him just on the back end of the shot wiggle way sideways. He was really, really loose on corner exit. Whether or not he got help, I couldn't totally tell. But Bordeaux, not exactly in love, I think, with where he's at. 20th on the boards, and did get the victory, which certainly helped his case. But you'd rather be a little bit higher here at Dover, because it's not easy to make up track position here. If you get stuck mired in the middle of the pack, you really have to have almost a super human or super fantastic machine. I'm not quite sure what the, I guess, car equivalent of superhuman would be. But you got to have a fast hot rod to make it up, because everybody will try and get down to the inside. It's hard to make the outside work here.
Yes, it is. But one driver that just did, and you talk about superhuman, was looking at Vicente Salas, who started 15th, is already up in the 9th position. I know we've talked at length about how fast that he has been in this series, and yet even starting at 15th, I think he has a piece that he can maybe go up and try to win this race. Now, remember a week ago, he was running at Richmond. He pretty much had that race in the bag, got caught out on a pit cycle where he had come down to pit. The yellow flag came out, was involved in a little bit of an incident a little bit later on after that. And, you know, James, the one thing about these drivers is when they go to social media with how much time that they put into this, they express themselves. And there were several drivers that were not very pleased, I guess, with what Salas was doing last week, considering the points position that he's in. Now, we'll give credit where credit's due. If you're fast, you can do whatever you want with your race car, but I think that's one of the balancing acts of being in this series, is if you're in a position to advance, the last thing you want to do, I think, is upset some of your competitors, because race car drivers have very long memories, and when you're in the Coke Series next season, I tend to remember things that happened even down here in the lower ranks, we take a look on board of Ray Alfalla.
Indeed, the mailman in action, getting ready to lick the stamp and send underneath Caden Rush, entering turn 1. And a reminder that iRacing's Black Friday sale has started for 2023, 50% off of new memberships and 25% off of 1- and 2-year renewals and reactivations. It is the best time of year, financially speaking, to renew, reactivate, get online with the send. Head to iRacing.com/Black Friday. And I will attest, when I renew my subscriptions, I do it during the Black Friday sale. As you get a good look at the live point standings on the right-hand portion of your screen, the climb continues for Daniel Botafuco. How remarkable to think of how terrible his luck was at the beginning of this Contender Series and how much he got caught up in incidents. And yet, as it stands, he is 1 point out of contention for the top 20 as we run. And you remember last year when he was the first driver that missed the cut and had to go all the way back through the qualifying series and make it through round 1, round 2, and now it's back in the Contender Series. This is a slog. I don't want to imagine the mental drain, stress, pressure that he may be under, but it's been equally as impressive to see a driver who is almost 30 points off the cut in the middle of this series make it to being that close to being on the good side of that line.
Look at his first 3 races in this series. He got 15 points total. He got 7 at Vegas, 7 at Homestead. He collected just 1 at Phoenix, and that ended up being his drop week. But that just goes to show you, you get a nice solid top 5 after that. You really get, you really just need about 1 or 2 very solid top 5 elite runs in this series to get you right back in the mix of things, especially considering, James, it's kind of the going nature of this series that we have a lot of drivers who do well early. That tends to kind of carry over in the next few weeks. So while we have the Vicente Salases, the Zach Novaks, the Taylor Hurst, or the Ryan Luzas who are making up the top 5 every week, when you're able to kind of make up that difference, if you're somebody like Botafuco, or heck, even Kevin King didn't have a strong start to the season either, if you're able to make that up with 1 solid run and everybody else around you is kind of already up in the standings, that's how you're able to see these big moves where you can go from a 32nd to a 23rd in the series standings in what seems like a very small amount of time.
On board with Caden Honeycutt, originally from Aledo, Texas, now residing in Mooresville, North Carolina. Multiple-time winner in the ARCA Menards Series West in 2023, and the race winner of the opening race of this series back in October at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. He's had a really, really strong season all the way throughout this Contender Series. He's never been outside the top 10 in points, and he's one of the drivers that could potentially finish north of 41 points above the cut line and could be assured a place in the top 20 in points by the end of this evening if things go well.
Just has to really maintain right now, and I think we're really going to start to see that in these next couple of laps, James. These drivers that kind of know what they have in terms of long-run pace, where they're going to settle in, and kind of what strategy they're going to approach with. Again, we kind of talked about the fuel window in this car is a lot longer than halfway. So how do you balance that if you're one of these drivers that is in a good points-paying position? We saw at Richmond, right? It was a green flag pit cycle that caught out a couple of our top runners. They end up getting a bad finish out of it. So how do you balance staying out on the racetrack, but also if you split this race up evenly in half, that overall is probably going to be a little bit faster given track position and everything else that you're going to gain out of that. So how do you balance that, wanting to come in, make the most time, but also here at Dover, I mean, you're going to go 2 laps down almost under the Mr. Green Flag pit stops because this pit road is so slow and it is so difficult to get on. We've seen several times at Dover Motor Speedway in a myriad of different series. We saw it in the Coke Series, guys having trouble getting onto the pits.
It's happened in the Coke Series, it's happened in the College Series, it's happened in the Qualifying Series, it's happened in the Contender Series in past years. So if we get a green flag stop, that's absolutely something we'll watch, because amongst 38 cars, there's good chance that at least one of them will miss the entry to pit road and end up in trouble, and we'll try and be on top of that for all of you watching wherever you may be, should that occur. This is another look at Femi Olot. He's been running inside the top 10, had a really, really strong run just trying to chase down Taylor Hurst. Just to remind you that if you want more updates from eNASCAR, then you can scan the QR code on the lower right-hand portion of your screen and learn more courtesy of iRacing, the official simulation partner of NASCAR. Same thing for more information on the College Series. Scan the QR code there and you'll learn more about how you can participate in the time attacks and how you can potentially earn some scholarship money towards your tuition.
Behind Cody Bias, Ryan Luza a little bit earlier, James, he came over the radio and said, Cody, I don't really want to hit you, but I don't know, man. It tells you even up front here, you have two drivers that are in a great position. Luza is virtually locked in to a top 20 position at this point. He could wreck out of the next two races. That's not going to change him being inside the top 20. Meanwhile, Cody Bias, he's kind of right on that cut line, so I can imagine that it's probably more of the incentive for Bias to stay up there and not really give up any positions.
You have a lot to fight for if you're Bias. You really don't have that much to fight for if you're Luza. When you also consider that his worst finish in the Contender Series this season was a 6th place at Darlington. That's how consistent Ryan Luza has been this season, and we talk about it, it seems like every week, but that's really what you want to test. This is not necessarily a series in which the championship matters all that much. It's consistent top 5s, top 10s that usually get the job done and get you into the Coke Series, and up to this point, no one's done a better job of that. No one has a higher drop race in this Contender Series than that of Ryan Luza.
In two very different scenarios here. Salas, your points leader. We mentioned how fast he was earlier, but hasn't kind of been carving through the field as quickly as I thought after those opening couple of laps. He's kind of settled into where he's running now in the 9th position. And Derek Justice, somebody who's looking to get back to the Coke Series for what I believe would be his 4th venture in that series, but he has a ways to go before he's able to do it. He's going to help himself right now running in the top 10. He was 9 points beneath the cut line getting in. But we did see there on the live points when it was on the right-hand side of your screen there for just a moment that this run right here would put him basically dead even with that cut line. And, you know, James, we talked about it at the top of the show there. You see it right there, 1 point to the good. Now, the one thing, and we've covered it throughout this series, is where that cut line may move. How many drivers are we going to have retire? Is Conti going to hold strong and actually say, you know what, actually I am going to retire? Is he going to have second thoughts? Is Alan Bowe's going to have second thoughts? I've heard rumors that there will be another driver that may not be returning that was inside the top 20 in Coke. So is that cut line 23rd? Is it 21st? I know if you're anybody that's beneath that, you don't want to put that to chance. You want to get in that top 20 regardless and not leave that question to rest.
We know most likely 22. Two drivers have publicly announced it, but there's some that may consider it after the fact and may make a late decision, and that may extend the cut line even further, as you said, Blake. So, again, one of those things that we'll have to watch for. But, like you said, if you're one of these drivers, 20 means you don't have to worry about that. 21st, 22nd, anything further means you will. You get a good look here at a battle a little bit further back. Jonathan Delaney, Caden Rush in this mix, as is Ryan Doucette and company. Just a big, big group of drivers all fighting for position. This is all for 32nd.
Handful of drivers that are kind of in a tough points position, at least coming in, except for Jonathan Delaney. I know we kind of highlighted it at the end of the broadcast right now, and I hate to kind of do this when Delaney's running in the 32nd position, but got to give credit. I know I was looking at the standings a couple of days ago with a couple of these drivers, and that's just one name that popped off of the page. And, you know, we haven't necessarily been talking about him probably as much as we should on these broadcasts, but that's Sunoco Chevrolet. I mean, he's pretty much going to be in at this point. I know 32nd, not helping himself right now, but he has a very high drop week to boot with that. So Jonathan Delaney, a name that we may not be as familiar with, and we haven't covered because he hasn't been running in the top 5 or top 3 or very often. He's just been very smooth, very consistent. And for Jonathan Delaney, that's going to be good enough to where all of our fans out there, you're going to have to learn that name because he's more than likely going to be racing with us in the Coke Series in 2024.
Could stand to have a better finish tonight and a good run at Texas to really lock it down, but a lot of the hard work has already been done for Delaney, no question about that. As we look at Ryan Lewis take over the second spot, he finally makes the move on Cody Bias to go to the runner-up position and now has about 1.8 seconds worth of track to try and reel in Wyatt Tinsley and fight for the race lead.
I think you can see kind of the value of clean air right now, and that's one thing. 24 degrees of banking, you can kind of see everybody somewhat favoring the same line, kind of drifting up a little bit towards the middle of the track and making sure they keep that car, that left front, a little bit low and almost wrapping the apron on the exit of these corners. And I think Tinsley kind of showing you, one, he has a very fast race car, but also being able to get out in that clean air, so valuable. And now Luz is going to have a little bit, I mean, he's 2 seconds behind Tinsley right now, but you could see even he's kind of using that to his advantage as he pulls another car length away from Bias. But there you can see the advantage for Tinsley. It is large, it is nearly 2 seconds, and it is continuing to grow each lap that we put down.
As Tinsley continues to stretch out the lead, a reminder that the World of Outlaws game is now available on Xbox One, Xbox Series X and Series S, PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, and now the Nintendo Switch. So you can take World of Outlaws Dirt Racing wherever you go. Just got the 2023 season update not too long ago, added a new set of tracks, new cars, new windshield tear-off feature. A lot of fun to play. A lot of fun to play. And again, the Nintendo Switch joins the family too, so you can take this and play it on the plane if you so wish. I was doing that actually a few days ago on an airline flight. So, World of Outlaws, you need your fixed skill dirt racing, you can bring it just about anywhere. That is why Tinsley continues to lead this field here at Dover.
So about 50 laps in, the pit window is open if you want to come down, and I wonder if we'll start to see a couple of those drivers that we were talking about back in the 30s that kind of need, where they're running right now, it's not going to be good enough. So are we going to see a couple of drivers who are going to take that risk, come down and get tires a little bit early? You can see 3 sets available down in the pits as well. Can't imagine that will really be a huge factor here. But the pit window's open, you'd be able to make it all the way to the end on fuel at this point. So I'd imagine that throughout the next couple laps or so, we'll probably see a couple of drivers. I wouldn't be shocked if we know Ray Alfala has been somebody who's been willing to kind of pull these off strategies when he hasn't necessarily had the speed. And right now, 2 points beneath the cut line, riding in 29th. I could see him as somebody who may think of trying to pit a little bit early and jump some track position.
I think there are 2 schools of thought that I can see regarding pit strategy as we approach the halfway point of this race. One is you split this race into 2 equal stints of 60 laps each, and you come in right at halfway. The other is that you try and do what Ryan Doucette was able to accomplish at Darlington a few weeks ago, where you stay out as long as you can and hope that you get a yellow flag after some of the other drivers in the field of pit, so you can pit from closer to the front, you can gain some track position. It's a gamble because if we don't get a yellow, then you're going to give up a lot more than what you would have given up if you split the stints evenly. But if you hit it, there are a lot of points to be gained. And for folks that are way, way in the back, that can make a huge world of difference as we get a good look at the other Rise Esports driver carrying the Sunoco colors, Clinton, Connecticut's Zach Novak, 2019 Coke Series champion.
Again, he'll all but be back already at this point in the 2024 Coke Series. Agnell Phillip, we kind of talked about his situation at the beginning of the show, that he was kind of the last batch of drivers I would consider that realistically have a shot to continue to move forward. He currently rides in the 17th position right now, but has been one of the few that we've seen that kind of started further back in the field, who's been able to make his way forward. Started in 22nd and up to 17th, and I know that may not sound like a lot, but it's so difficult here at Dover with how close these cars are, how you can kind of hold guys up when you run the outside or the middle line. And Phillip definitely has a little bit of speed, a little bit of clean air in front of him, so somebody that's going to fight tooth and nail, I'm sure, to get as many points as he can.
Daniel Smallwood's night has not gone the way he would have liked in the opening half of this race. He started up in 13th. He's now back to 28th and continues to lose positions. This is Kevin King underneath him. Ray Alfala next in line just behind Smallwood. Jonathan Delaney there too. And Smallwood needs points. He was the 20th driver in the standings, 2 points to the good. This is not the kind of run that will help make things easier at Texas in 2 weeks.
Yeah, he's free falling right now. He's stuck on the outside. Can't find a way to get by. You can see he kind of has some old tires. Kwame Scott trying to do the same thing as well, duck out of line and kind of make up some spots in that way. Scott kind of ducked down to the bottom. I wonder if maybe he's going to pit. No, Andrew Navarro right there. Kind of showed low on the back straightaway. I was wondering if that meant that he was signaling that he was going to pit. It doesn't look like that will be the case right now. But just in front of Daniel Smallwood, you can see right at the edge of your screen, Kevin King, Ray Alfala, a couple veterans. Of course, Ray Alfala, 4-time series champion of the Coke Series, and Kevin King, somebody who's been around for a number of years, got back in the Coke Series last season, but came in 8 points to the bad tonight, and needs something to happen, find a little more speed, have a really solid pit stop to kind of keep himself there going into Texas. As now we see Daniel Buttafuoco. This is really interesting, James. He was pitting from a very good position. He was up and running well. So this is a big call here for Buttafuoco. He's going to be the first one, but we talked about drivers splitting this in half. He's going to come a lap early of doing that.
So Buttafuoco is in that first camp where he will hope to see this race go green, and if it does, he will likely gain a few positions compared to where he was on the racetrack. So that's the gamble. I'm curious, if you're Wyatt Tinsley, you could potentially force everyone else's hands and come down and make them play the strategy game.
Honeycutt's sliding, but he saved it. I thought that was going to be a caution. Honeycutt gathers it. I'm not sure if he tried to pit and he got hit or if it was just a general wreck, but what a save that he had. And I think it was the case that, he just got a little bit loose. I think he was trying to pit and then realized the guy behind him wasn't going to slow down, so he kind of sped up, tried to eventually make it to pit road when he was sliding and couldn't do it. So Honeycutt will lose a ton of spots, but a great job saving it, keeping this race green. We'll take a look at it one more time. And again, I think at the last second, he either decides to pit or he just gets loose on entry, and he uses that as an excuse with, I'm loose, I'm going to try to pit. So you can see he slows down and just realizes he's not going to be able to make it in. So I think that was the decision. He wanted to pit, wasn't quite sure, couldn't commit fully, and then when he tried to, he just missed it. But nevertheless, a great drift and a great save there from Honeycutt.
I think that was Kwame Scott that also went high there too. I think there's something to the point of trying to miss being clipped there because Scott ran way up the racetrack. I don't know whether or not it was to avoid Honeycutt intentionally or whether or not he missed the corner, but that certainly would have been a confounding factor. Daniel Falkingham just came down pit road. Michael P. Frisch and Derek Justice are in for service now on lap 63, and Wyatt Tinsley continues to lead, but we're starting to see some takers on pit road for what could be their only stop of this race.
It's been a little slower to commit. I thought once Buttafuoco came in around lap 59 that we would see a lot more drivers start to make their way down to the pit area. But again, it kind of depends on the individual battles that you're having, James. If you have a second lead or so, you can kind of wait for the guy behind you to pit, and then maybe you decide to commit. But I thought we would see kind of more split it exactly halfway, whereas it's kind of 3 or 4 laps after we're starting to see a majority of the field pit. And again, anything can happen at any moment with how difficult it is to get down to the pits. And we see Bordeaux sliding in as a bunch of the dead zone cars are pitting at the front of the field. And we see another one, Colin Keister. He's at pit entry. But you can see that green light still on, no caution.
Keister ended up nosed out towards the outside side of the pit wall as we see Wyatt Tinsley slide into his box. We'll have to wait and see whether or not he looked like he came in there a little bit hot. So whether or not there's any sort of penalties, we'll wait for and see. Speeding penalties also a really common thing here at Dover Motor Speedway. Femi Olot is in. Most of the leaders now decided to come down pit road, and that leaves Seth DeMerchant, your race leader.
Keister has a meatball flag as a result of the damage that he got there. So it looks like that's going to be a drop week for him. Now, granted, his drop week is very, very high. He has 14 points worth of a drop week, so Keister probably going to be in A-OK position despite that incident here. But Seth the Merchant leading right now, and James, I know you've been covering this for a while. I've been covering this for a while. I've been racing for a while. It is so good to see Seth the Merchant, who has been in this series time and time again. He's been knocking on the doors. Oh, man, what a slide there from Dylan Hall. He was willing it there. But how great is it to see Seth the Merchant, who has been at this for so long, has been dominant every single season that he's been running down in the trucks for Road to Pro. He's finally up here in a great position to advance. Came into tonight 11th in the standings, 25 above the cut line. He's actually going to pit this time, and it looks like he's able to get down to speed, although it was close. But certainly going to make his case to be a Coke Series driver. He's been at this for a long time, and in the community, very popular to see that he's finally going to be joining us, it looks like, in the Coke Series next season.
I think the Merchant is on his 5th, year of participation in the Contender Series or its predecessor, the Pro Series, in a row. He's been consistently part of this and just has not had the opportunity to get up into the Coke Series, but this is the best chance he's had yet by a good margin. As we'll take a look at what happened to Derek Bordeaux and Colin Keister entering pit road. This is look at Bordeaux, again, our winner last week at Richmond. He tries to get down on the binders and get to the brakes, and just a little bit too much rear brake, and then Colin Keister was already sideways, and Dylan Hall just snuck past both of them there some way, somehow.
Oh, trouble! Caution! This is going to change everything, and Agno Phillip, who is, again, we were talking about different strategies. He was completely out of this thing, 16 points beneath the cut line. Realistically, it was going to take a prayer. This may be the prayer answer, James, as he stayed out. There are, I believe, 11 cars that are on the lead lap, and caution flag is out, and we have... James, I don't know why you'd pit. We've seen this so much this season. It just seems like a certainty that we're not able to get through these green flag pit cycles.
This will be an interesting one as we look at some of these drivers who stayed out, come down pit road. Phillip, McKissick, Zach Novak, Alfala, Smallwood, Holzer, Pfeffer, Navarro, Brady, Helton, and Caden Honeycutt is going to benefit from this too. He stayed out after missing pit road, so he'll have the opportunity to come in under caution, and that well has saved his race, as it was Daniel Falkingham that was the cause of this caution right around lap 70.
So kind of two things happened off of turn 3. There was an incident entering the pit lane where Blaze Crawford just pulled a Matt Kenseth and plummeted himself into the barrels. So that's one incident. That's not what brought out the caution. I think what did, so look at the 39 here. Hill pits, and you could see Blaze Crawford, he's impaled himself in the barrels, and I think Falkingham maybe thought that was going to be a caution, lifted for it, and they're also coming up on the slower traffic of Max Brady, who had not pit yet. And unfortunately, Wyatt Tinsley, who was leading this race, that's the last thing that he wanted to see, as he was kind of the leader of this entire cycle, or would have eventually become the race leader, gets into the back of him. And you know, I feel for Tinsley there, because one of the things here at Dover, it's hard to see in front of you 2-3 cars or so, and I'm not sure if he quite saw that checkup was happening, or if Falkingham lifted thinking that Blaze Crawford's incident was going to bring out the yellow. I'm not quite sure, but nevertheless, it has set up another interesting set of circumstances this season in the Contender Series.
Personally, I'm going to go with the second theory, because it was Max Brady that was ahead of Falkingham just as they came through the apex of that corner. And it was one of those weird spots where Falkingham tried to duck underneath, and Brady, I think, was sort of caught between two minds as to whether or not he needed to go low or go high. And you don't necessarily want to go high here at Dover, especially on corner exit, because it's so easy to clip the wall. So Brady, I think, chose to run that inside lane. Falkingham then had to check up because of the closing rate with the fresh tires that he had, and Tinsley was tucked right behind Falkingham's bumper and just had no time to react or see Brady or get out of the way. Gets into the back of Falkingham. Falkingham spins around on the front stretch. We have a yellow flag that really changes the complexion of this for the top 11 drivers, all of whom just came down pit road, from Agno Phillip to Logan Helton. And there are a lot of drivers amongst this bunch, Blake McCandless, that need points and need a big fix of things.
Take one more look This is the back of Max Brady. So you can see Christopher Hill comes down. You can see the fresh tires. They are absolutely flying. You see Blaze Crawford in the background. And yeah, I don't really know if that was the case. I don't think Falkingham was lifting because of Blaze Crawford. I just think Max Brady, and Brady did nothing wrong there. He's just running his racing line. Yes, he's on old tires, but that's just how you kind of approach slower traffic at Dover. You just have to come up on them, and you could see that Falkingham was just mistimed it a little bit. It was trying to get that run off the corner, and I just don't think Tinsley reacted to it in time. Which, I mean, those guys are teammates. They're not trying to do that. They're not trying to run into each other or anything. That's the last thing, again, that Tinsley or any of those guys would have wanted. But unfortunately, now you have this situation where all the drivers who pit and stayed out, they're in a great position because you can see how many cars were taking a wave around. They're all on old tires. Everybody who stayed out, Phillip, McKissick, Smallwood, all these drivers that need a bunch of points, they're up front and they have the freshest tires. And not only that, James, look at the long line of wave around cars. They're single file. They're going to have to start single file. So if you're in 30th, you're not on the 15th row. You're in the 25th row or so. It's going to be a lot more difficult to make up spots.
It could make this run really fun for the drivers amongst the top 10, but we'll have to wait. We'll have to see. We'll have to try and piece together how it pans out. 45 laps to go at Dover in the penultimate race for the 2023 eNASCAR Contender iRacing Series. Agno Phillip gets a fabulous jump off the line and leaves McKissick. Zach Novak is able to follow. Novak's going to clear McKissick to second, and all of a sudden, the battle is for third between McKissick, and look at who's jumped to the inside. Ray Alfalla, Mr. Four-Time, is in the top 5 for the first time this evening.
Again, we saw so many drivers take the opportunity to stay out because they needed a prayer. This, we talked about it. This was a prayer answered for them, but now you have a mix of drivers who haven't been up front. They haven't had the track position, but man, James, this sets up not only a great finish, but what we might see at Texas next week if we have all these drivers that are beneath the cut line that come out with great points. It's almost going to hurt them in a way because all of those drivers, if they all have great runs, not really catching the people that you need to catch in points. So we'll see how it works out, but a whole new list of names up here at the front of the field who desperately need a run like this. Phillip, McKissick, Smallwood, Ray Alfalla could put himself in the top 20 with this run. Christopher Pfeffer, Holzer, those two may be a little bit too far out, but Andrew Navarro, Max Brady, Daniel Buttafuoco, it's going to set up a crazy run at Texas if this continues.
Caden Honeycutt trying to gain a little bit of track position. Andrew Navarro just behind him as these drivers work right on the edge of the top 10. And Max Brady, who was part of the yellow just a few moments ago, is also there, as is Daniel Buttafuoco, who's able to come in, and he pitted twice effectively, was able to run back up into the top 10 and had cycled so far through everything that he was able to make it work. So maybe part of the benefit of trying to split this in half, he came so early that the pit stop didn't hurt him near as much as it hurt some of the other drivers.
See Honeycutt down to the bottom right here. Probably one of the few guys that he can just kind of maintain up here at the front of the field, along with Zach Novak, who, you know, a couple years ago was a driver that was really, really strong, nearly won a couple of these races. He has an opportunity to do just that. But again, Agno Phillip, what a story it would be for him. And I've been in his position, right? Sitting way beneath the cut line with just 1 or 2 races left to go. You're just hoping anything can happen. And you're never out of it, but this kind of proves exactly why. And, you know, these guys are so good that you give them a little bit of track position, and now 39 laps to go. Phillip may not have a winning car, but he's going to finish a lot better than where he was running if this continues and we hold on here.
47 machine of James Holzer for Elite Performance Industries, and Max Brady yet again fighting for position. This is one of the best battles on the racetrack. This would be for the 10th spot as Caden Honeycutt looks to the inside of Christopher Pfeffer, just a little bit ahead of your screens. That black car on the left-hand side now coming right to the bottom of it. Really starting to make a charge late in this race as Brady continues to make things work. And this is how live points have shifted. It's some drivers that were in a good position before that yellow, not in the top 20 now. Daniel Buttafuoco's up to 4 points to the good, and drivers like Kwame Scott in particular have fallen out. Cody Bias has fallen out of the top 20, and then Ryan Doucette is also out of picture. And maybe more significantly, look at the drivers from 24 on back, already back of 10 points. So this not only flips the way we look at that bubble heading into Texas, but quite frankly, Blake, if this thing holds and it sets up the same way at the end, we could eliminate some of the drivers who are outright going to have a chance to make the top 20 or change at Texas in 2 weeks.
Just look how much that's completely changed the complexion here. Ray Alfalo was sitting in a bad spot. He's 12 to the good. Falkingham, despite the damage he has in getting spun right there, he sits in the top 20. Cody Bias, he was running second in this race, James. He was looking great. He's beneath the cut line now. Ryan Doucette has had a couple of strong runs. Max Brady, who was well out, now has a shot at it. It has, man, it has totally changed the complexion of this race.
Agnew Phillip looks like a genius, and Zach Novak here. Let's not forget Novak, with a run like this, would almost certainly lock down a top 20 position in the final point standings no matter what. He came into this evening in a very good position, third in the overall point standings, had the bad finish at Darlington, but it may not even matter in the end because he's finished no worse than sixth in all of the other races in the Contender Series. A run like this, and Novak almost certainly is set for a return to Coke Series competition for, I believe, this would be the 7th consecutive season.
But it's never this easy, is it, James? How many times have we seen this season where we kind of get to the last couple laps of these races? We see a lot of close racing right here between Colin Bowden, Derek Justice. We just threw Justice up there. Again, he was kind of running near the top 10 in a really good position. Now he's kind of on the outside looking in and racing really close with Colin Bowden, who was up into the top 5 a little bit earlier. And, you know, one thing that's hurt these drivers, James, is the fact that, again, we were mentioning it earlier, they're on old tires and they can't really make it up without another yellow coming out. And they just have to kind of fight amongst each other. All these cars that took the wave around are kind of in a race amongst themselves. You can see the separation that's kind of, I don't know, like top 10 or so, outside the top 10. They can't really go any further forward because their tires just aren't going to work out, and they're going to be so spread out at that point. Wyatt
Tinsley has made up basically no ground since we got the restart. He got the wave around, restarted in 13th, took the tires before the yellow flag. He's been stuck in 13th pretty much since we got going and got back to green flag racing. So that tells you everything I think you need to know about track position here at Dover Motor Speedway and just how important it is as this race is strung out and most of the field has driven back down to the bottom in the corner.
They still use every bit on corner exit. The gap up front has kind of maintained. We saw that after, 20 or 30 laps or so, Wyatt Tinsley was really able to take advantage of the clean air that he has. And again, I just think that kind of goes to show that Phillip had a good car. He may not have the best car here, but now that he has that clean air, he doesn't necessarily have to be the fastest guy out here. He just has to maintain right now. But for somebody in his position, again, it's a 5-point difference between being able to win this race and being able to finish second. And I know throughout the season we've kind of talked about the fact that you kind of just have to run these as point races. Well, if you're in Phillip's position, you're 16 beneath, that is a massive drop off if you're going to go from first to second in this race. So I think you can guarantee that Phillip is going to drive his heart out and keep Novak behind him as much as he possibly can, knowing that Novak is pretty much in a position now to advance. Even if he somehow, I don't know, disconnects from the server right now, he's going to be in a great spot. Novak, though, these last couple of laps looks really strong, but Agnew Phillip is going to have to drive his heart out to try and hold Zach Novak off.
Novak has been gaining, no doubt about it. It was about a half a tenth that Novak had on Phillip on the stopwatch last time by. You see Novak beginning to search for clean air and look for different places to run on the racetrack just to try and maximize every last bit of speed out of his Sunoco Chevrolet Camaro. At the stripe, yet again, Novak faster this time by, 2/100ths of a second, so it's not a lot, but Novak is definitely gaining on Agnel Phillip.
And Novak, you could kind of see he was looking a little bit higher in 1 and 2, and it kind of shows you the importance of clean air, that whatever line that Phillip is running, Novak's trying to adjust to it slightly. In 1 and 2, he was running a little bit higher a couple laps ago. Now you can see just getting a little bit of that nose and just the slightest amount of clean air to try and get a run on Agnel Phillip. But Novak's car, at least for now, just able to rotate through the center of the corner a little bit. Phillip looking a little bit free right now when he's getting back to the gas. And again, he just has to hope that Novak overdrives a little bit here, uses up his tires, and that Phillip can finally pull away with a little bit of clean air. Don't forget about Brandon McKissick either. I mean, he was 24 back coming into this race, I believe, of the cut line. Or, yeah, he was in 32nd, 24 points back. He's also kind of running down your race leaders the last couple laps. He's one of the fastest cars on the racetrack, so Brandon McKissick wouldn't be out of this deal either. He has a lot to make up and would likely need a run like this and some help at Texas to realistically have a shot, but wouldn't put the Letarte Esports driver from this past year, I wouldn't put him out of this deal yet either.
Fabulous battles here across all of Dover Motor Speedway. You've got the lead up top. You got 18th on the bottom between Hill and Derek Justice. Seth the Merchant also in there as well. And just ahead of the Michael P. Frisch, who I think would like a little bit better run than this. Entered tonight 11 points out and likely will be on the outside looking in as Hill went up the racetrack and just about took out Derek Justice. Approaching 20 laps to go as Falkingham will get out of the way and everybody goes back to single file racing. But that was almost our second yellow of the evening.
Yeah, I think Falkingham kind of realizes there's nothing to gain here, but, tough for him. He's going to have to rely on his drop week, which is only 2 points, so that's the concerning part for Falkingham. Came in plus 23 to the cut line, but his drop was 2 points. This is going to net him 1 point, so he's only going to get 2 tonight, and with everybody around the cut line having a great run, Daniel Smallwood, Ray Alfala, all these guys that have been kind of benefited by this strategy, that is going to put him in worst case scenario approaching Texas Motor Speedway in 2 weeks.
It could get very intriguing for Daniel Falkingham, the same way that it likely will be for Daniel Botafuco. Even though Botafuco's top 10, he'll likely be north of that cut line, but not by much. So work to do for both the Daniels and likely Daniel Smallwood as well. He, I think, will also have to grit out a pretty intense run at Texas in 2 weeks in order to secure eligibility for the 2024 Coke Series. They continue to fight in both places here. Novak really hasn't gained all that much on Agnel Phillip. They've been even at the line in terms of lap time about the last 4 or 5 laps. So I think Novak's starting to settle into a groove. And as you pointed out, Blake McCandless, a second place run will almost certainly assure him of a top 20 finish in points, the Contender Series, and eligibility yet again into the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series for 2024.
What a situation, though, this has to be for Agnel Phillip. You got a former Coke Series champion who's done it before. Remember, of course, we all remember the battle that he had with Keegan Leahy late at Homestead, leaning on each other, never touched each other, had a great battle for the championship there. He was able to net what was then $10,000. I'm sure now he wishes he was doing it nowadays when it's $100,000. But you have a former Coke Series champion in your rearview mirror. You have a car that's slipping away from you just a little bit. And again, I think if Novak can get just a little bit of clean air, he could drive away. He is the faster of these two cars right now. You can see him taking a little bit of a different line, but Phillip just has to be sweating right now, knowing how much is on the line, and again, how often we've seen that these races have these late race cautions. You have to be thinking about that as well if you're the spotter, if you're the crew chief on this 94 car. What could potentially come if a yellow does come, or are we going to stay out? Are we going to take 2? Or are we going to take 4? all those things have to come into play, and it's just about happening a little bit further back behind him. Colin Bowden kind of leading a 2-wide train right now, just outside the top 10 with 13 to go.
Oh, contact there. Brian Mercurio goes, and Bowden's going to spin, and the yellow flag will come out again, and that will set up a late race restart and could make things very, very fun. We got a late one there, Blake. I have a feeling we may have more in the final 12 laps.
We may have more, and this is going to make it even crazier right now, James, because if you're up front, I'm thinking you stay out. We've seen how crazy these races get at the end. If you're Phillip, if you're Novak, I can't imagine you pitting here, but yet they're going to prove me wrong as they're all going to come down. Oh, I hope Phillip didn't pass the pace car. Oh, he may have passed the pace car, at least from my vantage point. It looks like he might have just done it. Right now, no black flag. It was close, but they're proving me wrong, James. They're all going to come down to pit. Now, the call is going to be, is it 4? Is it 2 tires?
Is it 2 or is it 4? We'll see how that shapes out as we get a good look at the replay here. Mercurio and company checked up out of the corner. This is the lap before, so you can get a good chance to see how this battle shaped up. There was a little bit of contact there between Bowden and Femi Olot. So Bowden was clearly trying to hold off everybody here from almost a whole lap away. Mercurio gets underneath him. Bowden tries to hang on his rear quarter panel, just can't do it. Mercurio gets the spot, clears himself, gets loose. Olot ends up driving into Bowden, and then a whole host of drivers come in and make contact. Cody Bias got swept up in this, as did Taylor Hurst and a few others too.
So Bowden will slowly drive away. One more look at it. Yeah, I mean, that's just, there's nothing that Olot could have done right there. Bowden runs into the back of the car in front of him, and just how you naturally exit the corner here at Dover. Very hard to see that contact was going to come out. So tough for them to react to. Again, green-white checkers if we need them, which again, we're quite a ways off. It's 110 right now of 120, so we'll come around with just under 10 laps to go in a little bit. But we do have the potential, and we've seen that a lot in the Coke Series this season. We've seen that a lot in the Contender Series, and you can look at some of the names that are up front, James. It was 2 drivers, or excuse me, two tires, 2 drivers that ended up taking right sides only. It was Ray Alfala and Christopher Pfeffer. I'm surprised it's that few. I knew that most of the drivers behind that took the wave around would kind of come down and take 4. But surprised that we didn't see more gambles with 2 tires. Now, the nice thing for Alfala, he's on 2 tires. He's going to be a little bit slower, but especially here at Dover, James, being able to control the restarts here is such a huge advantage. It is anywhere we go, but particularly here at Dover, I like this call from Alfala, even though he was already in the top 5. And plus, again, how many times have we seen wrecks late in these races? So if you can just stay up front for a lap or 2. I mean, look at Tucker Mentor at Phoenix. Stayed out on an impossible strategy, ended up winning that race to fight for a championship in the Coke Series this season. I favor track position. Even if it's not a winning move, I like this call here from Alfala.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that. Alfala and Christopher Pfeffer, too, who, with all due respect, had not been running all that high up the leaderboard, now is able to get right up on the front row. The other 3 drivers that took 2 tires in this field, just a little bit further back, Ryan Luza, looks like Michael P. Frisch, and then Seth DeMerchant. So that trio, to go with those 2, is the drivers who are on 2 tires getting ready to go after it here, coming towards a restart within the final 10 laps. We also want to remind you all that the season opener for the World of Outlaws Thrustmaster Sprint Car Series will come your way Monday night next week, November 20th, 9 p.m. Eastern on iRacing's Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook channels from the virtual Weed Sports Speedway in New York State. If you wanted to see the high-flying sprint cars of the World of Outlaws Thrustmaster Sprint Car Series, come back here in 1 week's time, and that season will get underway and carry us all the way through the new year. Get us back to all the action that they'll look forward to when they open up their season at Volusia Motorsports Park in February of next year. back here at Dover, the Contender Series, coming to 8 laps to go on this restart. Ray Alfalla, your leader, ahead of Christopher Pfeffer. The first 2 cars on 4 tires, Agno Phillip and Zach Novak in that next row. So can the 2 tires find a way around the 4 tires? And what sort of calamity will ensue? Green flag back out, and there goes Zach Novak immediately to the high side to try and clear Pfeffer for second.
Oh, and they're already on the apron further back in the pack. You have to imagine how long they may hang on. We see Frisch. He also took 2 tires. He was running in 18th. He's in 7th. And this is why I love the call for 2 tires. Immediate caution, as you can see, in turns 3 and 4. And what an unfortunate evening it has turned out to be for Cody Bias, who was running in 2nd and in 3rd position early on in the night. And unfortunately for him, gets called out on that green flag pit cycle, gets trapped a lap down, and has gone from bad to worse for a driver who was looking really good coming into the night. And unfortunately for him, he's going to have to sweat it out at Dover. A couple more drivers get involved in this as well. Looks like Kwame Scott may have gotten a piece of it, and I think Caden Rush may have also tagged the outside wall off it too. But again, this is why I like track position at this stage of the game, because if you took 4 tires, you're not going to have much time to use it.
You really won't. And this is a killer for Cody Bias. I won't say it makes the task impossible, but when you consider that his drop was a 1-point effort to finish deep in the field at Homestead in the 2nd race of this campaign, this is really going to drop him south of the cut line if he can't gain a few more spots at the end of this. This is the incident that brought out the yellow flag. We see Derek Justice there down to the bottom, and they all just sort of stacked up. It looks like, I believe that was Caden Honeycutt that got into, and then all of a sudden, look at Kwame Scott in the middle of that as we'll go on board with Anthony Burrows to see what happened from his perspective. Yeah, Honeycutt gets into Bias, and then Kwame Scott trying to get to the inside. There was nothing he could have done, and Scott's another one of those drivers that was right on the cut line, and now will have lots of work to do at Texas. He had a 26th place finish at Homestead. That's Kwame Scott's drop, so maybe not quite as dire a situation as Bias, but again, he likely will be on the outside looking in, entering Texas.
Heck of a miss there by by Anthony Burrows, who went all the way from the top to the bottom, didn't encounter any other traffic, and he was able to make his way. And again, he's running in 28th right now. We'll see if that kind of comes back around, if he can't get a couple spots, if he's able to miss a couple of more. Had some issues earlier on in the night. But again, so much going on in the world of eNASCAR. If you want to learn more, if you want to sign up today with the official simulation partner of NASCAR, you can scan the QR code on the bottom right-hand part of your screen, and you can get signed up on track today. And who knows, maybe find yourself driving the eNASCAR Contender iRacing Series one day. And don't forget, you can also register for the eNASCAR College iRacing Series. Coverage will continue with that in 2 weeks from Watkins Glen International Speedway with the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series of vehicles that they will be piloting. It's been a fun college series, been a great Contender series, and James, I know this off-season in racing, it tends to fly by pretty quickly, so I'm sure before long, or what feels like before long, we'll be at Daytona ready to get another season underway.
Personally, if you love to compete in eNASCAR competition, the winter brings us a very unique series for official racing outside of any private leagues or anything in the eNASCAR ladder. The Winter iRacing NASCAR Series comes to town, featuring the 1987 stock cars, the Chevrolet Monte Carlo, the Ford Thunderbird, the Buick LeSabre, the Pontiac Grand Prix. That season started last week at Daytona. I was lucky enough to come runner-up in my race. Blake, you won yours on Saturday afternoon, and lots of fun there to be had too. So if you want a slightly different NASCAR experience, that also awaits you as part of the iRacing membership. Here's a look at the live point standings and where everybody is. And Kwame Scott, we see there already 2 points out. Cody Bias has completely fallen off the page. That's how bad his situation has become. He's now way, way out of contention. So this is going to be really, really difficult for him. And then Derek Justice now struggling. Michael P. Frisch is just in the midst. And Agno Phillip, with that pass that Ray Alfalla made for the race lead, went up from the good to the bad. And now he resets. And look at that. There's the difference between second and first, right? That's how crazy this could be. You win this race, you're 4 points to the good. You fall off, you're a point out if you're Phillips. So this is a big, big, big victory he needs to try and lock down.
Yeah, I mean, you could see our points. That's how accurate they are, is that even pacing around, Phillip was just a nose in front of Alfala. But I like that it did that because you could see the huge impact that has. Ray Alfala was off the screen. He's in the top 12 if he wins this race. And Phillip, you could see how much that would help him. He's right beneath the cut line where he sits right now. This is not green-white checker territory. 3 laps to go. It'll be when we take the green flag this time. Have to wonder how long we hold it together. If Alfala can get a jump. We've seen early in the race that Tinsley was able to get a good jump on the top side. So we'll see how good Alfala can try and lead the field. It's a long, slow crawl over here to the Geico restart zone. But Alfala, the 4-time champion, looking to get back in the series, will launch, and he gets a good one to get us back underway.
Ray Alfala goes. Zach Novak underneath Phillip. He's got help from Caden Honeycutt, who really makes a big shove there. And here comes Zach Novak stalking Ray Alfala for the race lead as they bounce off of the fence and wreck on the back straightaway. Nobody spun out just yet back there. Somehow they keep it forward some way. I don't know how they pulled that off, but Alfala's got the lead. Zach Novak wants it 2 laps to go.
I don't know how they were able to get that, keep that green as long as they could, but finally they just weren't able to hold on to it. I mean, you could see they were 3, they were 4 wide, saving all around, and then I think Andrew Navarro, I believe out of the corner of my eye, got tagged off of 4, and I mean, that kind of felt like a green-white checkered. I was hoping we could get back to the white flag, but it was 3 laps to go. Unfortunately, Navarro, who has not had a season to write home about up to this point, gets tagged from behind. I believe it was Taylor Hurst in the number 33 car that may have gotten a piece of him to send him around. And unfortunately, we will have to rack it up and try it once again, as Novak, James, was so close to making a move by Ray Alfala.
He was, but this now gets very complicated because Dover's the kind of racetrack where we could use all 3 green-white checkers. We may not see this race come to a natural end. We may end it under yellow. So if you're Novak, I think you have to be thinking about making this move within a half a lap, within 3/4 of a lap, because you may not get more time than that to make the pass happen under green flag conditions if everybody behind you wrecks around 20th or so.
Take a look at what put us back under caution. Again, you saw everything that transpired. Look at Vicente Salas. I mean, that's one thing that popped out of the corner of my eye. He's up. He's ripping the cushion at Dover. Didn't think we'd see that, but look at how well it worked for him. James Holzer gets a little bit loose further back in the field. Navarro's out of shape. They're 5 wide back here. Doucette enters on the apron. He passes about 3 or 4 cars, and yet it's going to be this contact right here that actually causes the caution. Hurst, Navarro. I mean, again, hats off to those drivers that somehow kept that going as long as it possibly could. This is on board our previous race leader, and the car that dominated the early portion of this race in Wyatt Tinsley. You can see James Holzer 4 wide, gets a little bit out of shape. Navarro's in the middle. Tinsley goes high, goes low, is able to make his way by, and then just behind him is where that caution happened. So Tinsley probably passed about 8 or 9 cars in the span of just 1 or 2 corners as he tries to rally his way back up into the top 15. Incredible piece of driving right there.
Made it up to the 15th position, which is only 2 spots back of where he was running after we had our first yellow. So it's not the lead that you want, but that almost makes the night relatively neutral, all things considered, which Tinsley I don't think will mind. Now, a reminder, our green-white checker rules as we get set for another restart. We had 3 attempts to finish this race under a green flag. This is our first that we are about to undergo. If the yellow flag comes out before the white flag, we will throw out another yellow, pace car will come out, we'll reset the field, we'll try it again. If the white flag is taken before we get a yellow flag, we will race to the end under green flag conditions, and if they wreck at the end, they wreck. And if you lose positions or gain positions, then whatever will be a proper case sera sort of moment, and we'll see if that could shuffle up the standings a good bit. So keep note of that. If we get the white, we're racing to the end. If we get a yellow, we're doing it again, and we've got 3 opportunities to do that. If we get 3 yellows before they come back, to get the white flag. The field will freeze at the moment of that final yellow, and that will be the final finishing order, so long as all cars on the racetrack can make it back around at the start-finish line.
As far as cars that are up in the top 10 who would have, this would be a significant impact for them in their season in terms of trying to make it. Of course, Daniel Smallwood was on the cut line. He was the cut line coming into tonight. He currently runs in the 7th position. Big help for him. Michael P. Frisch was sitting in 17th position when that caution came out. He'd elected to take 2 tires. He's currently running in the 8th position. He was back in 29th, 11 points beneath the cut line. And again, the problem for him, as well as many of these other competitors, James, is that you can't really make up points when everybody around you is also having a spectacular run or could put themselves in a good points position here at the end of the night. So he's trying to make up some ground. Brandon McKissick also as well up in the top 10. Oh, man, but still a lot left to be determined here.
A tremendous amount, and this is the kind of race that can totally throw the point standings around 20th in particular on its head. We'll see some people lock some spots in, no doubt. Zach Novak has a huge opportunity to win and lock in if he wants to, not necessarily because of the victory, but because he'll be north of that 41-point buffer that we believe is the magic number to be all but assured of a place in the top 20 in points entering Texas in 2 weeks' time. We'll watch Alfala, we'll watch Novak, we'll watch the rest of the field go after it as they come back to green flag racing. Ray Alfala trying to win and really solidify his case for a top 20 position. He gets a good jump, and Novak will try and roll the momentum up top as they come to turn 1.
One car in the back had, I think he blew up, Dylan Alt, but we still stay green as he was parked in the middle of 3 and 4. But nevertheless, up here, you can see 3 and 4 wide once again. Brian Mercurio gets the worst end of it. He's going to lose a handful of positions as they'll come around this time. Do they get back to the white flag? Can Ray Alfala hold off another former series champion, Zach Novak? They take the white flag. We'll see it through to the end.
Here we go. One wreck a little bit further back. Zach Novak to the inside as Alfala tries to hang on. He loses the spot. Caden Honeycutt now to the bottom as Novak is going to scoot away from the rest of this field. And the 2019 Series champion of the Coke Series is going to win his way into the top 20 in points with authority as Zach Novak wins the eNASCAR Contender iRacing Series Round 6 of 2023 at Dover, and in all likelihood is eligible for a spot in the 2024 eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series.
Alfala was just able to come across the line in 3rd. Caden Honeycutt barely got the better end of that battle with him. Agnell Phillip, his late call works out for him. He finishes in 4th, and you can see how happy he is, not only for Novak, but I think himself. He was a long shot coming into tonight. He has a realistic shot of advancing when we get to Dover in 2 weeks' time.
The champ is back into the Coke Series, most likely. We don't have it official yet, but very, very hard to see a world in which Zach Novak would not be north of 41 points to the good. And then you consider everything else that's transpired in this series, even with the drop. Even with the 1 point that he picked up at Darlington, the rest of his races have been so good. That win right there, likely enough to send him into the Coke Series next year. Caden Honeycutt and Ray Alfala were 2nd and 3rd. Agnell Phillip and Ryan Luza 4th and 5th. Daniel Smallwood gets a desperately needed top 10. Vicente Salas also likely going to be looking at a Coke Series spot with that sort of run. Christopher Pfeffer, Michael Frisch, Daniel Botafuco round out the top 10, and all of them needed really good finishes and got them here tonight.
Indeed, going to go a long ways towards helping their season. It's going to make Texas a little bit easier throughout the top 10, especially when you look down at Frisch. Pfeffer may be a little bit too far back, but nevertheless a great run for that Legacy Esports Toyota. And Daniel Botafuco, we chronicled his comeback. He may well be back in the top 20 by the time we see the end of this.
we'll wait and see how it pans out after points get tabulated and get calculated as some of the other drivers with good runs. Brandon McKissick ended up in the 11th position. Max Brady was 12th. Christopher Hill, 13th. Ryan Doucette, 14th. Seth Merchant, 15th. All of them definitely going to benefit from these good runs. And Taylor Hirsch, remember, he was in the back of Andrew Navarro a few laps before the end of this. He ends up top 20.
Well, that shows you how much happened on the last couple of laps. Zwack hangs on for 21st. James Holtzer maybe a little bit out of it, but 22nd. Tough for Briar LaPrade. He was so strong tonight, running up in the top 5. He's going to have to settle for 23rd. Helton 24th, Delaney 25th. And again, we mentioned with the fact that his drops are so good, this may not have been the night that he wanted, but he's in a good position. Cody Bias, heartbreak for him as his quest to make the Coke Series next year may be done. Bordeaux was in a great spot coming in, and Caden Rush with his best run of the year. Femi Olot 29th, not going to help him, and Kwame Scott, somebody else is going to have to sweat it out.
These drivers did not have good luck on their side, did not have good finishes this evening, will have to work to be in a good shape at Texas in 2 weeks' time. But to victory lane and to a driver that is likely looking at yet another season of Coke Series competition, your winner from Clinton, Connecticut, Zach Novak, is alongside Blake McCandless.
Zach Novak, who nearly visited Victory Lane several times this past season, is back in Contender Series Victory Lane. And Zach, you've pretty much solidified your spot in the Coke Series next season, and you've garnered a lot of momentum running down here. How is that going to try and help your approach when you're looking forward to 2024?
Well, you know, I've been, not going to lie to you, I've been planning this speech out for a long time, but, you know, I'm tearing up a little bit because, you never know when you're going to win, you know, ever again. And, you know, it's been a long time coming, man. You know, I kept grinding this stuff out, and it's been 3 long years of if I'm, you know, am I good enough, or, you know, when is it going to happen again, or if it, you know, if it'll happen again. And, you know, although it's not the Coke Series, this is, you know, right there with it. Just means a lot. We got really lucky with that caution, and just huge props to my crew, Logan Sheets, Corey Vincent, Will Cooley, for keeping my head in the game and, you know, giving me good adjustments and good spotting there and good coaching, you know, through those last restarts. And man, I don't know what else to say, man. It like I said, long time coming, and it feels so good to finally break through.
Well, you've been at the top of the mountain before. You've won a Coke Series championship. What is still that motivating factor for you? Because I can see how much this win means to you, to be able to solidify your spot, to be able to run well here. What's that competitive fire still like for you, even after winning a championship and being involved through all these years?
Racing's all I've ever known, man. I've been racing since I was 5 years old. It's just all I know. And it's scary to think about what I would do without it. So, you know, I everything I do goes into, you know, trying to perform as best as I can. And like I said, it just means the absolute world to finally put it all together and you know, finally figure it out. You know, it feels like I forgot how to win. So, like I said, to put it all together means a lot, and I cannot thank everybody at Rise Esports and, you know, before that, Richmond Raceway, and everybody that stuck with me, Sunoco. I mean, they've stuck with me through hell and back, man. And, you know, to get them a win in the Contender Series means even more than what it means to me. So just super, super thankful, and definitely going to celebrate this one tonight.
All right, we'll let you go do it, Zach. Congratulations on being a winner here at Dover. We'll see you out to Texas in 2 weeks, but nevertheless, it will be a Coke Series bid for Zach Novak in 2024. Same could be said for this driver who we've talked to several times in Caden Honeycutt, who brings it home in second place tonight. Caden, it was a little bit of a different night. We've seen you've had a lot of speed this season, but tonight came with a little bit of strategy, a lot of chaos. How was it from your vantage point?
Well, my vantage point, I was flat out terrible tonight. My teammates were able to drive through the field since they drove from like 15th all the way up, I think, into like 7th or 6th or whatever. and there was me free falling through the field like a rock. And I really just don't understand this car and this tire model and this track anymore as much as I'd like to. But honestly, I just needed a good finish, regardless if it was second or 15th or 20th. Last 2 weeks, I just done the dumbest stuff, blowing a tire at Darlington and me being way too aggressive at Richmond, trying to pass people under green. So I just needed a good night, and luckily we pulled some strategy. I had thought about, regardless of me missing my pit entry, I thought about staying out as long as I possibly could, because I thought this was going to happen, and it happened. It happened right in front of me with Dan, and I'm not really sure who the car was that hit him, but I mean, we got through it. We finished second, so essentially I think we're locked in for Texas. So we're just going to go to Texas and have fun, take this nice week off, get our race set done as quick as we can, and just have a nice 2 weeks. So looking forward to just have fun next week. Appreciate Alan Lewis for stepping in, Blake Reynolds, Alex, Dead Zone Racing, Vicente, and everybody that just does so well on this stuff. So going to hit it hard at Texas one more time and move on to Coke in 24, hopefully, after Texas is over.
All right, we'll see you then, and we'll see you at Florence this weekend, South Carolina 400, buddy.
Absolutely. I'll see you there too, Mr. McCandless.
All right. Sounds like a plan. Caden Honeycutt brings it home in second tonight, and boy, is it great to see Ray Alfalla back up here in third. And Ray, your night was pretty wild, but you sit, at least by my math, 13 points above the cut line after the run tonight. How was it for you tonight at Dover?
Yeah, well, it started off terribly for the VRS number 2. We started off in the back, just got tight in qualifying, and we were just patient with it. And we figured there's probably going to be a wreck at some point here, and green flag stop, so we just stayed out and finally caught a good break, and we were able to restart in the top 5 and just stayed there. If we could qualify well, we'd run pretty good, but we always seem to qualify in the back, so that's been our weakest point. But once we were up front and then yellow came out late, I just wanted to keep the track position. I didn't want to go back to like 8th or 9th, because that just seems to be where all the trouble starts. And once I came out on 2 tires and there was only like 1 or 2 other people on 2 tires, I pretty much knew I was toast as far as the win goes. So came a lot closer than I thought I would. But I just wanted to hang on to a top 5, and we were able to do that.
For you, Ray, it's been different without you in the Cook Series this season. What has kept you wanting to keep coming back and doing this after having a year down where you have, so much competition down in the qualifying series coming up here, and now looking like you're in a good spot to advance to the series once again? What has kept you motivated this last year? What have you learned kind of having to take that step down before stepping back up?
I mean, I learned that I really don't want to go through this year again, so that's my main motivation. It's absolutely terrible. Just the competition is so tight, and I feel like I'm much better at the Cup car than any of the other cars, which makes it tough to, once you fall out, to get back in. So, but just all my support from all my friends and family, and my teammates at Legacy and Altus and Coanda, working together for the Contender Series. And it's what I enjoy doing. I've been sim racing for 20 years, so just because I fall down doesn't mean I'm just going to quit.
All right, Ray. Well, you still have some work to do at Texas, but looking to be in a very good position when we go there in 2 weeks' time. We'll wish you the best of luck, and hopefully we get to see 4-time in the Cook Series in 2024.
Thank you, guys. Looking forward to it.
Ray Alfalla P3 this evening. Let's look at the point standings. We told you entering this evening that 41 was the magic number you needed to be ahead of the cut line, so we can say welcome to the top 20 in points and welcome to eligibility for the Coke Series in 2024. Vicente Salas, Ryan Luza, Zach Novak, Caden Honeycutt, and Taylor Hurst. Those 5 we know will end the season top 20 in points mathematically. They cannot fall out of it regardless of what happens at Texas.
Well, and again, I got to give a shout out to Garrett Mashburn, who has an incredible spreadsheet that goes beyond some of what you see here, that takes into account the drop weeks and everything for some of these drivers. It may be a few more that are kind of in a great position, even if they go out and finish last at Texas, that their drop weeks will be enough to supplement them a spot in the Coke Series next season. Now, again, these points that you see right here, they are with the drop, and of course, they are unofficial. We see the top 20 that are locked in right now. We don't know if it'll be 21, 22, 23, maybe even more than that. But, James, these are the drivers, especially those on the left-hand side of your screen, that have a lot of thinking, a lot of practice to do ahead of Texas Motor Speedway in 2 weeks. I'd say the right-hand side of your screen, probably going to be impossible at this point to make a comeback. But I would say Christopher Hill, maybe down to Burrows, and you could include Kevin King down in there. Perhaps he gets a win at Texas. Those are the 10 drivers who are going to be fighting it out for those last couple spots.
I think that's a fair point. Let's also not forget, how about Daniel Botafuco making it into the top 20, entering Texas after the start he had. Wild work for him, but very, very strong work to fight back. He still has work to do, but he enters Texas on the right side of things. And the season finale to the Contender Series comes your way in 2 weeks' time, November 28th, 8 p.m. Eastern, eNASCAR.com/iRacing. And it's a doubleheader night as well, because the College Series will run at Watkins Glen International, also on November 28th, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. You can see all of that on eNASCAR.com/live. Going to be a wild, wild finish to both the fall semester for the College Series and the Contender Series for 2023. For Drew Adamson and our entire fantastic team behind the scenes at iRacing's production crew, and for my partner in the booth, Blake McCandless, I am James Pike. Thank you so much for watching iRacing's coverage of the eNASCAR Contender iRacing Series from Dover Motor Speedway. Congratulations to Zach Novak, and we will see you in 2 weeks' time for the season finale of the Contender Series and the final race of the fall semester of the College Series from Texas and Watkins Glen.